In this little video, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how we're going to prepare a sample for the powder XRD instrument. Here, this is called a D Phaser, and this is what we're going to use it, what we're going to run the scan on. I'm just looking around because I'm seeing, my pipette. Right, okay, so here's your sample, and this is your sample holder. This sample holder is it's got a window, well not window, it's a sheet made of silicon, and it won't give you an X-ray diffraction pattern. Okay, so it's a single crystal silicon, but there won't be a diffraction pattern coming off. So this is used for samples where you haven't got much sample available. So this is my sample. In this case, I'm just using an example of barium sulfate, and I'm going to put some into the pestle and mortar. You don't need very much, so that's plenty there, and we're going to put that in there. That's all you need. So most of the time we don't have very much sample. And then what you need to do is take something like isopropanol. So this is isopropanol, you can use other ones too, and just put a little bit. You don't want very much, just put a little bit. Squeeze it when it comes out. Okay, just a little bit in the bottom, and then you give it a little bit of a mix, so you're making a little slurry. Take a pipette, and what you want to do is take that slurry, so suck it up into the pipette. It doesn't look like there's very much, but there's more than you think, and then you want to drop it on here. Now what you don't want to do is you want to put a little bit in, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to put too much on there, because it takes a while for it to evaporate off. And then the other thing is that you find is that if you do too much, suddenly it bursts over to the remaining part of the sample holder, and you're coating your material over all this area here, and this area isn't scanned, and you haven't got much material. So you want to make sure you only put a little bit, maybe, I don't know what I did there, 3 drops or something like that, 3 or 4 drops on here, and then you just wait. Now on the X-ray diffraction machine there's a little fan that's on the side here, and sometimes if you just put it on something like here on the side and just let the fan evaporate off the isopropanol, and then the sample's ready. So depending on how much sample you've got, you might not have very much after this, but you might have a bit more left in the pipette. So let this dry and then add the remaining amount from the pipette. Look at this, it's already starting to evaporate off. Ideally what you want to do is you want to have a solvent like isopropanol, solvent that doesn't interact with your sample. So if you find that isopropanol changes your sample, then don't use isopropanol. But what we're trying to do is using something that evaporates off. So you could use ethanol. There's still a little bit left on, just move it around. This does take a few minutes to prepare a sample. Still, there is air blowing there. Like I said, there doesn't look like there's much sample, but there's probably plenty for the XRD. Okay, most of that is gone. So I've still got sample left in here, so I'm going to put a little bit more, drop it more on there, and I'm going to put that back onto that to evaporate. And all we're going to do now is we're going to wait until that's dry. So we've now got the sample. All the sample is located on the disc, on the silver disc, and we're ready to go. So you notice there's no sample on the outer area here. It's just in the centre here. It's a very thin layer, so you don't need very much. So the first thing you want to do is there'll be a spectra that's already on the screen from the previous person. You want to open the lid. It looks a bit like a microwave oven, and it clips up, but inside it's not a microwave oven. So you go in and you put your sample here in this disc holder here, and then on the side here, there's a little, on the bottom actually, a little button here that you push this and the whole thing raises up into here. Okay, and inside there you can actually see where the X-rays, there's X-rays are sent down here and detected there, and these arms move around. You're going to push it down to the bottom here, and then we need to do something on the computer. It says start jobs, so we're going to start jobs and we'll give it a sample ID. So I'm going to write it's just barium sulfate, this sample. I'm going to write my barium sulfate, and I'll go test 4. Okay, so barium sulfate. Experiment name is important, so unless you're told otherwise, choose an experiment. Now the default one to use at the moment, if you go to my area under Jeremy H, to find my area, if I just click down here, you can see it's in the document settings, all users, application data, Bruker, experiments, and Jeremy H. So if you go into Jeremy H, the one to use at the moment for default is an 8-minute scan, 5 to 100. I might tell you at some point to narrow that down, but 8 minutes is a good time. And that means it's going between a 2 theta of 5 up to a 2 theta of 100. So it's quite a broad scan. So we say open, then results and file name. In here, you can give it your own name. So I think we'll click that off. Cancel. I just put it's still barium sulfate, isn't it? Test. I think we said test 4, but actually I think it's test 5. So I'm going to change that one to test 5. So they're on test 5. Script name and priority you can leave off. And so once you're ready to do that, you have to click one of these boxes over here, and then you just say start jobs. The lights will come up on the top saying caution X-rays, and then you're left with this blank screen. What you want to do then is go over to the Commander tab, press Commander, and it will show you the graph. You'll hear the machine going into alignment, and then it's got 2 theta readings. So at the moment it's on going up to 2 theta, but it's not taking any readings at the moment. It'll only start taking readings when it gets to 5, because you said you were reading between 5 and 100. So if you wait for a moment, once it gets, well, we said 5, but here it is. Here's the first counts. And at first you'll see quite a noisy spectra, but that's because it hasn't got any big peaks yet. But as it goes into the scan, you'll see that noise coming down. And I think there's some biggish peaks around 22 theta, so if we just, by the time we get to there, we should start to see a spectra that you're possibly more familiar with. So it's running along, and basically it's going to scan all the way to 102 theta. If we have a look at the step size, it goes up in a step size, a certain step size per 2 theta, and at the moment it's set at 0.02 for a step size. I'm just waiting for that big peak. There we go. Now that's started, you can see a big peak. There's another one, and there's probably another one coming up soon. That's great. And so this is your spectra that's starting to appear. And like I said, we've set this to 8 minutes. So it's going to take 8 minutes to do the scan. You can do a shorter scan if you want, but 8 minutes is a nice period of time. Otherwise you end up with a spectra being a bit too noisy. So the scan has just finished now, and this is our spectrum. It's an XRD spectra of barium sulfate. We're going to remove the sample now. So unhook, pull down the lever, and we'll remove the sample and put it to one side. So that can be cleaned. You can clean that off with isopropanol. push the lid back down. It's quite a heavy lid. And then on another video I'll be showing how to take those files off the instrument and what to do. So you've done your spectra. Now all you want to do is get that spectra and take the data out and convert it into a file that Excel can use. So to do this, what you need to do is find your results file and convert it into something called UXD file. And it's a UXD file that Excel will be able to read. So what we want to minimize this screen, and on the computer we'll come down to File Exchange. So double click File Exchange. When you do that, this will come up, and this will be all the results of different people, and you can use this double dot button at the top to kind of go back and forward. So remember our results, they were in I think Bruker, and then I have to look where the experiments, results, there we go, results, and then go down the list, and there's my name there, and then you'll find your own subfolder in here. I've got a subfolder within my subfolder, so go into that, and can you see there's a file here, for example this one here. There's two spectra I've taken today. This one's number 2 and number 4. So number 2, let's have a go at converting that. So there's number 2, block it, and then go down to the bottom right of the screen, and it says convert, and F9, and if you press that convert, it says overwrite it, because I already did it before, but now it's done, and you can see you've got a file which is this one, UXD. I'll do it for the other one, so block that one, down to the bottom, convert, and there it is. I've got 2 files. So let's say I've got these 2 UXD files. These are the ones that that the computer can read in Excel. So what I want to do now is I'll minimize this screen, and on here it's got shortcuts, and here it's got shortcut to results. So I'm going to open the shortcut to results, go down to Jeremy, and there it is. There's my results, the 2 UXD files. So at this point you need to copy them onto a memory stick. Now this is really important. We've had a lot of problems with getting viruses on the machine, and we don't want a virus on the XRD instrument. So it's just come back into focus there. So we're using a memory stick, but what we don't want you to do is you mustn't use your own memory stick. This memory stick is kept in the folder. It's a special memory stick. So what's important is that you put your files on the memory stick, you take them somewhere close to a university computer, you remove the files, and then you return this straight away. So you can imagine people coming, when they're using this instrument, they've got this fantastic spectra, but they can't find the memory stick, and that does happen, and the memory stick might have gone. Someone might have gone home, actually gone home somewhere else. Maybe they don't turn up for 2 weeks or something like this, and so we've got all our files, but we can't actually get them off the instrument. So when you're using this, don't walk away with this. Put your files onto this memory stick, go somewhere very local to remove the files, and then return the memory stick before you do anything else. So anyway, this memory stick, actually, little inconvenient, but it goes in the back of the instrument. So there's the back of the XRD instrument, and one of these flaps down here, the memory stick will go in. So that memory stick is now in the back of the XRD. We'll go round to the front, and it's just like a normal file manager. So if we're saving this one, right click, copy, and then start at the bottom, my computer, D Phaser removable disk, and then I'm going to actually on here there's going to be a new folder I'm going to call Jeremy. So in this folder called Jeremy, you can then create a folder for yourself, and then that's where your files go. But we don't really want the memory stick being filled up. So once you know you've got your files, you can delete those as well. So anyway, so I'm going to go into Jeremy, and I'm going to go paste, and that is now my file. That it's a UXD file that that can be used in another computer. So let's close this down now. Let's close that down, close that down. Do not close this down, okay? Don't close that. Leave that one open, all right? So now we're going to remove the memory stick. Now with the memory stick, we go down, we safely move it using the safely remove the memory stick. We go around to the back, pull out the memory stick, and now we need to locate some computers which are local to here that we can use. So we're going to come out of this room, down through the lab, and there's a number of different places on this floor, but if you're going to use one of the computers in the teaching rooms, then don't just barge into the teaching room. Ask the lecturer politely if you can just come in and use one. So for example, in here there's a computer here which we can turn on somewhere. There we go. Computer's on, memory stick's here. You can log in, you can just log in, actually it says on this computer. I'm going to put that in. I'm going to put the memory stick in. I mean, obviously this is, you know what you're doing here. But on this computer, which is in one of the teaching labs, you can access your email. So what you can do is email it to yourself, and that's probably the best way. So you're not putting files onto this computer, but rather you're just emailing the files to yourself.